What up? What up? Welcome back to the Sneaker History Podcast. If it's your first time here, you lucked out because this is going to be kind of an intense, crazy, emotional conversation between me and my buddy Mike Guillory. How you doing, man?
I mean, I was good up until about an hour ago, but people found out why.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I don't even know what to think. It's just we'll have to wait and get into that, but. Let's just knock out the business right up front. What are you rocking? What are you copping this week?
Yeah, man. So what I'm rocking, that Concept ZX9000 Boston Marathon. One of my
nice.
My dive into that collection of all that A to ZX pack was like $100, man. I think it's super underrated. Man. Yeah, really like it. I think it runs a little longer, but Adidas can't ever get their sizing right. But other than that, man, super dope shoe. What I'm looking to cop. It's not really, I don't think, anything hype because I felt like a kid again. I've been watching Steph Curry just really go off like nobody's business. And I just want a pair of freaking Curry 8s now, man. I feel like a kid watching this basketball again. I'm like, this is how I wanted to buy shoes back in the day. And I just want a pair of Curry 8s because right now, I think he's almost at 50 points as we speak against the 76ers. And they're about to beat the 76ers. So, I mean, that's how it used to be, man.
Yep. Yeah, man. It's crazy because I was thinking the same thing. Like every time I see Steph start to go on a tear like that, it's like, man, I should probably pick up because I haven't bought one it's been like three or four. And usually I try to at least check it out, even if I don't like it, I want to see it in hand, wear it and then maybe donate it or give it away or something. But that's definitely
exactly.
A good reminder for everybody out there listening, watching, it's totally okay to just buy the things you like when the moment hits you and you see the energy that Steph is bringing to the court. I'm, not a big Under Armour fan, but throughout the years, they've had some good stuff. There's a lot of memories there for me. And obviously being close to the Bay Area and being before the Kings came to Sacramento, even being, a Warriors fan as a little kid, and then having all my favorite players play on both teams. Steph is just that dude, you want to support somebody like that. I think it's a conversation for another episode, but I do think that we could have a conversation around Steph and his choice to move to Under Armour and where he's at now versus his Nike stuff, because what we're going to get into tonight will address some of that. But first, I pulled out the Air Max 1s, the 3M Safari. I forget the nickname on this shoe, but
it's like Snow Leopard. I think I made that up, but it's something crazy like that.
Something like that, yeah. Leopard, yeah. I saw Todd wear them not too long ago in the Discord, and was like, oh, I got those. I should pull those out. I'll have to share on my own YouTube channel at some point the story of actually picking those shoes up, because I actually got them for a very special occasion that I don't have time to get into on this episode, but it was a good time. It was very car related type of thing, but really, really nice. Cool. So, and as far as what I'm copping, I don't want to say what I just recently copped, but if you listen to the podcast, you could probably guess. I will say that I have some, not the ALDs, but I do have some New Balance 550s on the way. And you'll have to wait and see those, but that'll be my cop for this episode. I actually copped some other stuff too, but I like to make sure that I have them in hand just in case something goes wrong and they don't show up. Because nowadays you think you might have something coming, and then next thing you know, it doesn't show up. So,
hey, again, the Cosmic Unity saga. I mean, it came eventually, but you just never knew what's going to happen. Dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Those 550s, I'm not going to give it away, though. When you sent me that link, I tried. Every size up to mine was gone. I was like, and I've been trying to get a dang 550 every time they release. Such bad luck.
It's crazy how popular that shoe is right now. I mean, I think that it's a dope shoe. I love all those 80s basketball shoes. I think there's, There's actually Saucony came out with a Jazz Court recently that's like an 80s basketball inspired basically take on one of their early runners. So it's like if you combine kind of a more of a 70s runner, early 80s runner vibe with a that chunky 80s basketball vibe, low top. And then I think
that's dope.
What was the other one? I mean, obviously like Converse, Adidas, pretty much everybody. Oh yeah, like I just threw in the Discord. Nike dropped the prices on some of the Delta Forces, which I mean nobody talked about those shoes hardly at all.
No,
it's just a good time if you're into like 80s basketball shoes, just like as a casual, like I mean everybody's buying Dunks, but there's a lot of stuff that's super under the radar right now that like I'm not trying to stockpile the way I once did, but I definitely will be getting a few, setting them aside for a year or two and pulling them back out because the trend only happens for so long where all the brands hop on and start making it. The trend of whatever's hot and hyped, obviously, like I could care less. If I get the stuff, it's nice. If I can't, no big deal. But then it's always fun for me to go revisit that and bring it back out of the closet and be like, okay, like let's see what's up with this one this time around.
Yeah, and they last a long time. I mean, the way that because the cup soles and the way they're put together, they're tanks, so you don't have to worry about it crumbling or anything like that. So I think at this point, I've been really against buying 550s for resale. But I think I'm going to end up buying a pair. I'm like, I just want a pair so bad. And it's not even, because I don't see anybody wearing them. No, I see everybody buying them. I don't see anybody wearing them. I'm like, when I see it, I think Jordan 3, I think Jordan 4 are just like, I love that shoe. And it's just one I want to add to the collection. Just like you said, I just like that old school, like leather basketball shoe vibe. And I'm like, guys, it's $100. Throw me a bone. I'm trying to give you my money. Help me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to steer you away from the 550 because it is a dope shoe, but there's definitely some other good stuff out there too. You could probably scoop up for half the price. I mean, I think the Delta Forces I think they were like $45 on Nike.com. And like, I mean, they don't have like as good of colors because they only did like a couple. And I think the ones that are on sale are like, just the black and white.
Oh, okay.
But they're, super simple. And then that
Saucony
shoe is actually pretty dope too, but I think it's I think it's like 110 or 122. So
it's only $90.
Kind of crazy. Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, this depends on the colorway. No, it's only $90. Yeah. I'm looking at the kind of white and I don't know, white and yellow color, which is really dope. $90.
Yeah.
Well, guess I'll, maybe this will be the, this will hold me over until 550s become, again, a new 327s and people get sick of them.
Yeah. I wonder how long that'll take because it happened so quick with the 327, man. Yeah. People were into that shoe for like 2 months and then it was like, nope. But the 550's been like kind of the New Balance buzz shoe for a while.
And I keep reaching out to New Balance like, hey man, let me do some reviews for you. They're like, oh, we're limited on stock, but we'll get back to you. They're like, give us your address. I'm like, I'm just saying, I'm gonna do the work. Just one pair. Just help me out.
Yep. Yeah, man. Well, I mean, speaking of putting in the work, we got a pretty solid review this time. Yeah. Shout out to I'm gonna butcher this name, but I'm assuming it's Vigilante, right? Like it's like Viet and Vigilante in one. So 5-star review says, love the show, especially the 3-hour episode with Bingston and the guys. Would like to hear more from them. The tennis sneaker history episode was great. Nick, what's your opinion on Agassi's Air Challenge LWP? Would love some sneaker history stickers, please. So I don't have a way to get in touch with you through this review, but DM me on Instagram at Nick Engvall, and I'll make sure you get some stickers. We got some new merch in the works too, so I'll hook you up with that. But thanks for the review. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to leave that review. And to answer your question about the Agassi's, the Air Challenge LWP is my personal favorite Agassi shoe of all time. I am a diehard LWP fan, whether that's the Go on the basketball side, the Agassi, the Challenge on the Agassi side, any of the takedowns of those. I just thought that was such a special time in sneakers because you just didn't, you it was literally just like seeing Nike test the combination of cushionings, test the kind of more, I don't want to say futuristic, because compared to like, patent leather on a Jordan 11 or clear translucent soles or carbon fiber, it wasn't futuristic, but it was like the future of sneakers in terms of the way the shoes were produced was right there in front of us in ways that I think, are still like, to me, the shoe that I have a few pairs of is the Go LWP, because they retroed it, right? Mm-hmm. And that shoe is one of those shoes that like you could hoop in it today and still feel like you're playing in a shoe that like is deservingly, made to play in. Like it's kind of amazing, because most retros, like all the 80s stuff we're talking about, this stuff is way too uncomfortable to hoop in.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Rasheed Wallace will pull that stuff off, but I'm not trying to play in bricks. Like we got too much technology out here nowadays. So
my feet can't take
appreciate the review. Vigilante, I like I said, shoot me a DM and I'll definitely hook you up with some stuff. If you haven't left us a review, if you want to leave us a good review, a bad review, Rowett wants to demand the positive reviews. Honestly, I just want the feedback. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you like the show, if you want to hear topics, if you want to hear specific things from us, anything that we can do to improve the show more than most importantly, that's what I'm kind of looking to get, is some of that feedback, because, we're just trying to learn as we go. We're, I don't know, 211 or 212 episodes in, somewhere in there. And, I feel like every episode we could definitely improve. And I'm not just talking about me saying like and the whole episode, because that's probably never going away. I apologize in advance. But if you could get past that, I'm pretty happy with the show that we put together, and getting to chop it up with these guys, has been like a lifesaver for me within the pandemic. So
heck yeah,
if you haven't considered that, if you haven't considered joining the Patreon Discord, it's been super dope. Friday's Zoom or Saturday's Zoom call, trivia night, was pretty incredible. Got a little rowdy, got a little out of hand. But it was good. We had some winners. We gave away some cool products, some Jordan 1s, a couple pairs of Jordan 1s. What do we got? Some t-shirts, some other stuff. This next month, I've got my concept for the next month in terms of giveaways is basically just like fresh runners. So I'm going to probably do 3, 4, maybe even 5 shoes next month. So this would be a good month to jump in, because it's springtime, man. You got to break out the heat. You got to get all the like light colored shoes that you were afraid of getting them muddy, afraid of getting rain on them. You got to break out the stuff, it's like shorts weather, man. So I'm ready. The giveaway for next month is going to be fire. I'm super stoked on it. I'll have the announcement up hopefully within the next few days, but yeah, definitely hit up the Discord, the Patreon if you haven't, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, man. Love the freaking Patreon or the Discord. It's just every day. I literally, if I get bored sitting in my office, I just click on the Discord. There's something interesting going on in every freaking channel.
Yep. Yeah, it's become much bigger than sneakers in there for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, we got any other business left? I think that's it, right?
I can't think of anything.
So normally it takes us like, a solid like 20, 25 minutes to get into the main topic, but I feel like Mike and I are both like, it's like we saw the tweets and it was like trigger warning. We needed to talk about it. The text messages were flying. I got probably half a dozen from people like right in that same time frame.
Yep.
But I'll toss it to you, Mike, since I've been rambling here. You can introduce what we're going to talk about.
Man, see, it all started on a fine Monday evening where everyone was just, trying to just get their week started off right. And then we get the infamous text. I think it was Nick DePaula who broke it, if I'm not mistaken. And it looks like that the estate of Kobe Bryant and Nike have not come to terms and will not be renewing his contract. So it looks as though the for what I'm understanding, the Hall of Fame Kobe 6, which I don't know what it looks like yet, will be the last Kobe releasing because Nike and Kobe have parted ways. There's no reason why. There's no one said anything yet. But it just first it went from Nick DiPaolo's tweet, basically saying that they couldn't come to terms, so they're parting ways. Then Nike basically followed up like, "Hey, you know what? Kobe's always part of the family, but no longer with Nike." I'm like, which I haven't found. I've been looking for Nike's statement. I saw Jock had posted the statement. I think Nick DiPaolo had posted the statement, but I can't find where Nike had put it out because they didn't tweet it. So I don't know what news source they utilized, or if they just did it in turn, like like on Nike's website where they have their press. Yeah. But so I just been walking around grumbling the entire time because I was planning on, I will finally just break down and buy those Grinches, and I will not do that because I've been watching prices just tick up, and so I don't want to. I understand the prices going up when they're going to discontinue something. I don't find it as disrespectful as when prices get jacked when someone passes away. So I saw this coming. I can't be mad at the resellers this time. I mean, I hate it, but I can't be like, you're being disrespectful when the brand comes out and says we're not going to be working with this person anymore. You just know what's going to happen. It's just natural effect. And I don't want to sound like I'm being like contradicting my own point. I just see it two different ways, like disrespecting someone's legacy and then, hey, we're just going to stop making this physical product. And I was telling the guys, I'm like, I think I'm just going to vacuum seal every Kobe I have now because I don't want them to break apart and I just never can get another pair because at this point, if you just keep refreshing GOAT, you see $100 jump like every hour or so forth.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate. Like that's kind of the way the market works now. And, I kind of somewhat jokingly, but I guess there's a possibility, sent the group the text and said, it just could be marketing on Nike's side to hype up the secondary market for the next, contract negotiation session, right? Like if that's let's say they come around to a contract 6 months, a year from now, all these secondary market prices just, shot up and there's going to be more demand for the shoes because the perception at least is that they're more limited than ever before. Mm-hmm. But I guess like I'm gonna just read these kind of two statements. So Nick DiPaolo said at 6:36 a.m. today, I received a text, quote, Vanessa Bryant did not renew contract. Kobe and Nike are done, end quote. And then he said, I've been working since to confirm what this means for Nike and Kobe partnership. As of right now, there is no ongoing contract for future Kobe releases. And then the Nike statement, which he said, like Jacques, I saw that on Jacques' page first too. Kobe Bryant was an important part of Nike's deep connection to consumers. He pushed us and made everyone around him better. Though our contractual relationship has ended, he remains a deeply loved member of the Nike family. So, yeah, I think that my first thought is, this isn't the end of Kobe shoes, right? Like there are plenty of ways that Kobe shoes will continue on. I think that we can look at, a number of athletes that no longer have a contract with Nike that have shoes come out, right? Chris Webber, possibly even like King Griffey Jr. I don't know if he gets any royalties off of those shoes, but they don't have his name. I guess they do have the Swingman. I don't know if he owns that. But like baseball with Hideo Nomo, when that shoe came back the first time, they called it the NM Max instead of the Nomo Max. Yeah. And I think that's probably what we'll see with Kobe's. It's kind of a no brainer to just think that, hey, the Kobe line could become the Mamba line or the Snake, the Nike Mamba one or the Nike Snake one or whatever that is.
Clearly Adidas went ahead and still, when he left, they still Crazy 8 from the KB8 or, KB2, they changed those. So it's still possible. I don't know. I feel like it's improbable though, just because there's just, I think they reflect him so much that it's really hard to put that out. I don't know what his contract looked like either, like what kind of rights he had to the models, since he was so heavily invested into the design. So it's really weird.
I mean, even if he's super invested in the design, he's super, integrated into the part of the process of making the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
This happens all the time with athletes, right? And I can't think of hardly any examples where an athlete left a brand and the brand didn't own the rights to that shoe. Yeah. Now, Kobe might be different because he is, the top 3 in the sneaker chain, I would say, like, in the he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of signature sneakers. Mm-hmm. And I think as far as like just being a face of the shoes and a globally recognized individual, there's no telling if him not being attached would actually hurt in the long run. I mean, I know as like fans of Kobe, sometimes a hater of Kobe as a Kings fan, a sneaker fan, like, yeah, it sucks to think that his logo or his signature might not be attached to a shoe. But then I think of, like you said, the Adidas. I've got almost every Adidas Kobe that ever came out as a retro because I was like, wait, this might be the only chance I get to get this stuff.
Yeah.
So that leads me kind of towards like not feeling too upset about it, but mm-hmm. It's definitely been something that we kind of all knew a little bit was coming, right? Like, even though it was never spoken that, hey, his contract is up, and hey, they're in the midst of trying to negotiate a deal. Back in December, we saw, I forget, I saw it on Yahoo News. I forget the guy that tweeted it out, but a story basically that Kobe was meeting with with other brands as potential partner or potential replacement for Nike for his footwear moving forward. Mm-hmm. And this is, pre all of the, this is like, I guess like a year from last December was when all this happened. So, this is right as Kobe, is kind of looking at the last year of his contract with Nike, and then obviously passes away. And unfortunately, we don't really know if that story is somebody just trying to chase the clout and throw out that they had the agreement or the meetings, or if there was something bigger there where Kobe was thinking, of trying to create his own lane when it comes to sneakers. I do think that, just to kind of clarify for the people that don't really understand that, my understanding is that's a very common thing, right? Like, as an athlete, you're always going to take the meeting because you never know what could come from it. And especially as somebody who wants to be the best and pushes people to be the best, I can only imagine that Kobe's going to take every one of those meetings where he sees a little bit of possibility or potential in the drawings and the renderings of, whatever shoes a designer might be throwing his way. Because even if he didn't want to leave Nike, he might even be able to bring that designer into his world as a part of, his group in the negotiating process, in the design process for shoes. So I think that, we've kind of, at least if you were paying attention, and, I think we might've touched on this briefly on the podcast, but like, we've known that there were things going on that potentially would lead to this point.
Yeah.
And I guess the other one that we should probably mention is, when the Grinches first came out, Mike wasn't the only one upset that he didn't get them. Like most of us didn't get them. Most of us didn't get them on this, quote, restock that happened. And the first time around, Vanessa Bryant came out and basically said she's trying to negotiate with Nike to make more of the Grinches because there were so many fans that wanted them. And as a business person, I try to step back and say, maybe Nike had already, put the orders in, you got X amount of shoes, and then, this restock could have been X amount more. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's not easy to just be like, hey, let's make 30,000 more Grinches or 100,000 more Grinches. And if you think about Kobe's legacy in the fan base, just in Los Angeles alone, you've got millions of Kobe fans, right?
Yeah.
And, living down there while he passed away and when Nipsey passed away, like people go hard for their people, like those two guys represented Los Angeles in ways that nobody can possibly even fathom outside of Los Angeles. And that to me is like the craziest part about all this, right? Is I would love to see or to have seen Nike acknowledge Vanessa Bryant's words, her social posts, the stories that were going everywhere when the Grinches first came out, and say, hey, we're gonna make more for the fans because the fans deserve this. They're still making tons of money off of it, so what does it matter if they make tons? Like they could literally make millions and it's still good for them because it's just adding to their bottom line. Where playing the secondary market and keeping the limited product run, to me, man, it just sucks. It's a shitty experience for people that aren't used to dealing with what we deal with as sneakerheads, because it's a big difference for a basketball fan that just loves Kobe to say, I want to celebrate my hero and go buy these shoes, and then have to be thrown into what sneakerheads deal with every day, every week with releases. So,
well, what's crazy is so from what I understood when she was saying that she wanted to make sure everyone got them, I think they kind of just like, you know what, Grinches are going to be Grinches. That was going to be as much as we had there. But I remember some part of her tweet was saying that COVID kind of put a dampener on the original plans for the production numbers, because I think it was going to be pretty much everything after it, like the All-Star pair that came out, that retro a couple months back. The playoff pack that's coming out next, the white and Del Sol and black pair, those are supposed to be in more attainable numbers according to what Vanessa Bryant was trying to do, because she's like, look, everyone was the people were fans of her husband. She wanted to make sure that they could properly get the things that they wanted, because I know it's not the same back in 2011 when Nike basketball was basically at its peak, when they were producing stuff just shoes falling out their nose basically at the factories. Because I bought a pair, I think a white and Concord Kobe 6s in 2011 for like $90 because there were so many different ones floating around. I think even oh my god, Laura Marion Kobe 6s were hanging around. Those things were there, a lot of them, and I guess Nike's like, well, we don't want to make that mistake again. But at the same time, I didn't see, they're not floating around, so somebody bought them.
Yep.
Let's I think just find a happy medium. It's we don't have to go as hard as we did there, but we don't have to go as limited as we are doing now, because their restock kind of sucks. Got in there, put the draw in, and I don't think did anyone in our Discord get them?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing anybody.
I don't think anybody in Discord even got them. So I saw some people on Twitter, but kind of usual suspects who always get stuff on sneakers, through one way or another. But it is just, you gotta, if you're gonna end this, I would say go out strong. You still got a couple colorways left. I think people have been pushing stuff back to begin with. There's so many shoes that have been pushed back this year because of factory issues or delays in getting things delivered. Push it back a little bit. I don't think people are going to be hurting. They don't have to have it on the said day, and put a couple more out there. I'm not saying 100-fold increase your numbers, maybe 50%. Increase your numbers by 50%. Give people more of a shot to get it. That's it. You're gonna end the line or do whatever you do with the line, or hopefully maybe you guys just come back to the table and come to an agreement, because I was really looking forward to a retro of the Kobe 8, Kobe 7, invisibility cloak and all those. That would have been nice.
Yeah, man. Obviously, as a fan of Kobe and the shoes, I think I kind of always default to just make more, let the fans have them. It's not even a personal thing to me. Mm-hmm. I also feel kind of weird in this scenario because I haven't bought an Air Max Sensation because the Chris Webber logo wasn't on it. Chris Webber, favorite player, going back to like 5th, 6th grade, my basketball coach teacher at that time gave me a high school sports magazine. Chris Webber, Country Day on the front, scored 63 points in a game as a freshman, I think, or something. Yeah. So like and then of course he plays for the Warriors, plays for the Kings. Like he is like absolutely right up there with Allen Iverson for me. I know that most people don't care for him as a broadcaster at this point, but I think that I think it's a love-hate relationship more than pure hatred. But as a player, like I always wanted to support him and buy his stuff and because they took his logo off of it, I felt like that just kind of sucked, like, yeah, he left and maybe that, you don't want to like be connected to him as a player because he's, got a different brand deal. But as Nike, I just assume that you own the logo, you own the shoe design, you're making the shoe, just make it original, right? Like no need to switch it up. So I say that to say like, I'm kind of in a weird spot. Like part of me would love to see, Vanessa Bryant be able to negotiate a better deal for the fans, for the consumers, because I feel like she's probably on that side, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe Nike isn't gonna switch up their business model or their strategy for anyone, right? And
for sure,
scarcity is a huge part of the way they play the game. And unfortunately, when you have an athlete like Kobe who kind of transcends all of that bullshit, in my opinion, you should just have those shoes. And I could totally see Vanessa Bryant wanting to do that for the fans and the supporters. Cause look, she's unfortunately gotta live without, her partner. And, she's probably looking at that like, hey, if I can make this easier for the fans, then it makes it easier on me in some roundabout way.
Yep.
And I can imagine that also on the flip side, Nike probably, looked at like, hey, Kobe's not around to negotiate. He pressed us harder than anyone. We can probably push back on this a lot harder than we would have normally and make more money as a company. Yep. And that probably is, both those things probably come into play in this whole scenario. And ultimately you have this situation where, obviously it's been confirmed that this is the case. But that doesn't mean that like it's the end all be all, close the door on Kobe sneakers, because there's just going to be a lot of other things that come up from it. And it'll depend on on what he owned and what was a part of that contract to kind of, for us to see. And unfortunately just time, right? Because one of my friends texted and said, it's no wonder they've been cranking out so many Kobe's for the last year, because they just wanted to make money off of the, what they had. Right. And
100%.
I totally understand that. But I also just think like, look, Kobe is kind of like, I think even without him passing, he's coming into a place where he is absolutely in talks of like legitimately, like this is, top 3 or 4 player ever to play the game. And I think a lot of people knew that as he was playing, but I think even more people, unfortunately, it's one of those situations where, giving people their flowers after, but like after Kobe retired from the game, I think more people became fans of him than not.
Well, yeah, because people don't realize, and people say it all the time, but no one listens. Appreciate what you have while it's there, and they talk about Kobe on the court. I'm talking about literally on the court at this point. Like everyone's gonna retire soon. Everyone who wants to, hate on LeBron, hate on, Chris Paul, hate on Melo, Zero, anyone who's out there who's a part of that superstar group who's just done magnificent things on a court, you have to appreciate what they are, who they are now, because you're going to look up 3, 4, 5 years from now Zion's going to be your best player on the court. And I'm saying that just because he's just Zion. He's probably the biggest name right now. But that's going to be your best player on the court. You're like, oh, man, remember that time LeBron did this? But no, you were too busy trash talking, or you're too busy hating them. I appreciate the talent that's on the court, because you just never know. You're going to blink and time waits for nobody, and you're going to be looking for them, just looking at old YouTube clips. But and this is how Kobe's career trajectory was going post-retirement. He was looking to own things. He didn't want to be a part of just a corporation anymore. He didn't want to make someone else millions of dollars. He wanted to build things from the ground up. That's what we had, the Mamba Academy. You had his production company. You had his enormous stake in Body Armor, which he had started out before he was on the court. But he brought in guys like James Harden, I think a few WNBA players, some other athletes as well. Everything he was doing for female basketball, women's sports. It wouldn't surprise me if he went off on his own. Either went to an independent brand, or it's not. It's after. I know we bring it up all the time, but looking at the Kanye model, who knows? Adidas look, you want to do this, this, and this. We can slap your name on it, and we'll leave you alone this time around. But you can own it. Who knows what he would have done, because it was a 5-year extension from 2016 up till clearly today. And I'm sure there were plenty of brands and things out there that we would have seen a new Kobe. Maybe this, no matter what, whether he was here or not, maybe this would have been the end of the Kobe line as we know it, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's something to definitely keep in mind, because you're spot on. He was definitely diversifying everything he was doing, taking more ownership and more control of things. And, to me, that's also what drew me back into being a fan of his is the entrepreneurial stuff that he was doing, because, you can only take losing to a guy so many times before, you just give up on the idea of being a fan. But so as somebody who is, I would say you're more of even a long-term Kobe fan than I am personally. Yeah. What do you think, what do you think of the, the phenomenon, the Mamba Fury, these other offshoot kind of sub brands that Kobe had with Nike? Does this mean that hey, people are going to back off of that? Because those shoes, for instance, we'll likely never see those ever again, right? If this deal never comes back around. And not that there's so many of them that we would want to retro, but there were definitely a handful of good colorways on both those models throughout the last 4 or 5 years that were, I think totally underrated.
Yeah. And the thing was, they all had their purpose. I know a lot of the phenomenons and the, I guess what was the other one? The Mamba
Fury.
Yeah, Mamba Fury, Mamba Focus. He always changed it every year. Yep. They had their place on the court and in the location. A lot of those were very popular in China with outdoor play. A lot of them were team bank shoes. But I like the fact there was an option. And people are very quick to forget that I can go into, well, at least in normal times, I can go into Foot Locker and I have LeBron mainline, I have Soldier. I have Kyrie mainline, I have Flytrap. I have KD and I have KD Trey. It's not impossible for these things to coexist, but people like to forget. They're like, oh no, we just want, no, they all serve their purpose. And I don't think we're going to see those anymore. I mean, no matter what happens. I mean, actually, you know what, Nick, when I think about it, I think if anything did happen, I think those would be the ones that would get retooled and renamed, because I feel like it'd be easier to rebrand those. As I was saying it out loud, I'm I feel like you can get a Mamba Fury and change a couple things and hey, that looks familiar. And 10 years down the road, you're I'm explaining it to my son. It's oh no, this was something completely different before you played in it. So I think we actually might see those before we see a rebranded Kobe inline retro, a true proper retro, I should say. Um, I don't know, man. It was just so nice because with Kobe's, because at the time, I mean, we'll be honest, people liked certain colorways of Kobe's back then. You know why he was still on the court, but they weren't really buying them up unless it was limited. And I could go into a House of Hoops and be like, oh man, do I want inline Kobe, or I'm not inline, but do I want regular Kobe like main line, or do I want to try out the secondary line? I had options, and they were both going to perform because Kobe was still a part of every one of those design aspects, no matter if it's main line or the breakout line or the lesser expensive line.
Yeah. Yep. I think the other thing too, like, you know, as I was digging through more of this, you know, it sounded pretty clear that, you know, Vanessa Bryant and Kobe Bryant's estate were the ones that kind of opted out of the contract. And I saw on TMZ that the Bryant family had filed a trademark for Mamba and Mambacita under, you know, an attorney representing Kobe Bryant LLC. And to me, like, that kind of confirms what I thought anyway, right? Like, you know, one, Kobe's been looking at this, you know, or had been looking at this, you know, prior to passing away. Two, you know, Vanessa Bryant probably is thinking like, let's make this more about providing the people what they want instead of let's turn it into the hype machine and sell more high price stuff and keep the you know, the availability low. And I just keep thinking like, how does Nike as a company like ever let that happen? You know, like, at some level, you've got to look at like what Kobe Bryant means, you know, the last, 14 years, 15, 2K3. So like 2K3. 17 years of being a Nike athlete. And the fans, not only in the US, right? Like, you know, I forget the quote, but
he broke into China. Like, it was him. Like,
exactly.
Him.
There was some quote that I saw recently. I think it was KD or something, or might have been LeBron. That was like, you don't know what a fan base is until you've walked into, you know, like walked off a plane in China to see the fans for Kobe there. And I just think, damn, how does this happen? You know, it just seems so crazy to me, unless it was just like super, super like already almost written in stone well prior to this date. And Nike was just trying, you know, moving up to now to make something happen before they came out and, you know, I guess obviously had to acknowledge it because today's the day or whatever.
I mean, yeah, it could have just been, I think there had to be prior meetings and today was the expiration day, because typically a big company, I think of it like an NBA team. They're going to start working on extensions well before the expiration of the contract, try to get it done. But even though it sounds silly, I really think the reason was that they didn't want to do what, you know, the Bryant family wanted. Like, hey, I want to make sure we serve Kobe's legacy as opposed to, I mean, you guys were making money. We were making money too, but let's not get ridiculous, because now we're causing all this, you know, we see all like the sneaker fights again. We see all this hype. It's like, that's not what he would have wanted, because I can't think of a time where there was any kind of fights or scuffles or over like Kobe's, even during the Galaxy Pack time. Phone pods is one thing, but barring that, I don't remember any fights. Like Black History Month Kobe's, people got them, people wore them. That was it. But it's just really just, like I said, there was something bigger in play here for what he wanted to do. Because I bet I can guarantee that Kobe was a smart man. And clearly, he didn't know he was going to pass away that day. But I'm sure he had something written in his wills, like, "Hey, this is how I want to proceed with Nike, if I'm not here." And I'm sure maybe they didn't want to honor that final wish. So Vanessa and the family were like, "All right, cool. I mean, we gave you ample time to come to the table with it, and today is the day." I mean, clear. I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, you know, they come back and try to appease everyone. within the next couple of weeks, because there's going to be major backlash to this from fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be from like the sneaker community fans, but like I'm also thinking of like Shaq, right? Shaq has a Reebok deal, obviously selling, some of the most expensive shoes on the market in the early to mid 90s, and ultimately decides, hey, I own my logo. I'm going to move to entry level, entry price points, pay less shoes, eventually Kmart's, Walmart's, all over the place. Like there are more people wearing Shaq shoes than there are Kobe shoes.
Facts.
Strictly based on a price tag, right? So if Kobe had that mindset of like, hey, we just need to make this more attainable for people, you can always make expensive shoes. You can always make, higher end shoes. You can always limit the production of shoes. But if your goal is to actually grow in volume, I think part of the conversation had to have been about just, the distribution, because one of the things that Nike is, also getting backlash for on the other side of the business right now is, closing all the partnerships down with, like, whether that's a boutique or, the kind of wholesale type places or, like
shoe
wholesale
carnivals and things like that.
Yeah, shoe carnivals. And I think it's interesting because you could, I totally understand where Nike's at with it, right? Like cut out the middleman, let's keep the profits going, because that's where the investors come in. That's where the money comes in, make those people happy. But at the same time, at some point there's kind of you hit the law of diminishing returns in that approach. And if Nike's telling Kobe that he is not as important in the big scheme of things prior to his death, compared to a LeBron, a Kyrie, Giannis, maybe a KD, the like my mind goes directly to, okay, cool, let's go sell to the masses at, Dick's Sporting Goods only, or whatever that is, right? Like big box. Like if you're about the game of basketball, you buy your shoes at this place and not, through a website, because you got to go in and get it and all that stuff. But then I just think like of the Shaq thing, and I could see where, coming out of this, even if we, I don't think that we won't see more Kobe's from Nike in some form, right? There will always be ways for them to, I don't know if it's honoring his legacy or hanging on to that hype that exists around it right now. But there will always be ways for them to make it work. The same way that Adidas did, a few years after he left that deal in 2002. But do you think that fans will buy a Kobe shoe? Like, look, if the numbers line up, logically, it would make sense for Vanessa Bryant, Kobe Bryant LLC, the estate, to partner with a Li Ning if he has a bigger fan base in China.
I was thinking the same thing just now. I was like, I wonder if they were going to go ahead and reach out, because he could literally, like we talked about, I don't know if this one's up yet or have been heard yet, but we talked about bringing more of those basketball sneakers from China to broader markets, like maybe sponsoring teams. That could be the tipping point. Even though he's not around, people equate Mamba to performance, Mamba mentality. You get out there and put him in a Li Ning, an Anta, whatever one he may have had a relationship, because I guarantee he has a meeting with at least one of them before. And I think Li Ning might have the best. Anta's pretty good technology as well right now.
All those Chinese brands are solid right now. Like,
yeah, even the one Aaron Gordon's wearing, was it the 361? Oh yeah. So you might be right. I was thinking the same thing as you were saying. Like, I'd watch he comes back with like a KB1 from like Anta or something, and I would not be surprised.
I mean, because if it's just about, distribution and quantities, right? And it's not, obviously if you sell enough of something, you're going to make a ton of money. But it's there's two paths that I see that are completely viable. One of them, you eventually renegotiate a deal with Nike, more production, blah, blah, blah. You keep that kind of last 15-year legacy alive. People still stick around. You get to retro everything. And you get the benefit of all these NBA guys playing in Kobe's.
That's another thing we got to talk about, though. What's going to happen to all these NBA guys?
Yep. And the other kind of easy path ahead, in my opinion, is it doesn't even have to be Li Ning, but like finding a partner that allows you to manufacture massive amounts quantity wise. Mm-hmm. And, if you're partnering with a Li Ning, for instance, then it seems pretty easy to line up some sort of distribution deal. And I'm not wishing this, but like some sort of distribution deal with someplace like Walmart, someplace like, Kohl's, someplace like Costco, any of those massive, massive retailers that just have enormous footprints in terms of retail spaces. Because look, I think maybe the sneaker consumer is not going to go into a Costco and buy a pair of Kobe Li Nings or Kobe. Yeah. Maybe it's just Kobe brand shoes, but the average person absolutely will. And if the goal is to have more kids in Kobe's, that's going to be way more successful. It might not be the high quality and the performance and the innovation that comes with a Nike shoe, but damn, it's definitely an easily viable option.
Yeah. I mean, even if they went to like a Dick's Sporting Goods, I think that would be a good spot. Like you get right in the middle ground because Dick's Sporting Goods are everywhere. Academies. I don't know what other sporting goods stores are around anymore, but that would be a good setup, man. I mean, I would gladly try a Li Ning Kobe. Like I said, I like Li Ning products. It's just hard to get. And again, we're just using Li Ning as just kind of like a baseline. But if he came up with a vanilla brain, I would try it. If he made his way back to Adidas and we get the Audi Kobe's again, I'd buy it. Just like weird things like that. I'm okay with change. I think my beef more comes with Nike. And again, we don't know the whole story, clearly. But you're trying to create a hype around something that, honestly, let's be fair, sat on shelves 10 years ago. Price points were at $130, $140. You've raised the price up to almost $200. You've cut the amounts, and do you see people tripping, falling over each other trying to get it? And that's what they like to watch. And I hate saying it, like we both like Nike products, but I'm okay with expanding my horizons. Like not everything I own is Nike, and I'm not particularly loyal to one person or the other because, I mean, Nike, you're not paying me. I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion. Like I love Kobe shoes, but I'm not. I can go back and buy a Crazy 8 from Adidas at any point and be just as happy. Or the Reebok Yellow Toe Question, I'm just as happy because I know it was connected to one of my, if not my all-time favorite player. So you can't corner the market on my fandom. So I'm gonna get whatever product is out there that can take me back to those moments of seeing them on court. So they have to realize that if that's what they're trying to do, play hardball, like, oh, well, people aren't going to do this if you don't stay with us. Just take it from one Kobe fan that I don't have to have a Nike. I go collect everything else.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think that, let's just throw out, obviously Isaiah Thomas is the first person that comes to mind for me. Mm-hmm. DeMar DeRozan, like those two guys, are diehard Kobe fans, diehard Nike guys, at this point too, because they can wear Kobe's shoes and get the PEs and get the exclusive colorways and all that stuff. Do you think the NBA athletes will ever wear another Kobe shoe? With the exception of Nick Young, I can't think, and Derrick Rose when he first signed with Adidas, his rookie year or second year. I'll have to break those out tomorrow. The Crazy 8s that he wore were super dope.
Oh, nice.
But I can't think of too many players that wore, the Adidas Kobe's as
James Harden
retros,
did.
right?
James Harden did. He wore the James Harden wore the Audi ones, the KB2s.
Yeah, but during, like all those guys had Adidas deals at some point or during that era, right? So like I can't picture anybody wearing Kobe Adidas retros without an Adidas deal when it comes to NBA guys.
That won't happen. They don't want to mess up their checks, which I don't blame them. Don't mess up your money. But it sucks because now they're going to be limited. Like this year, I mean, shoes last for a while, but not when you're playing NBA basketball. You can only wear them probably about 5-6 times before you blow them out because those are high level athletes, big dudes moving at high rates of speed, just blowing out shoes. So I'm really interested to see what they do next because that could be a make or break, like for DeMar DeRozan, Ja Morant, which you don't want to lose Ja Morant.
Yeah.
All those guys out there who are on Nike because they can wear Kobe model sneakers. I mean, you had Dwight Howard foregoing other sneaker deals just to wear Kobe's last year when he was on the Lakers.
Yep.
Like, you got to understand, again, his presence has a power to him. People wanted to be like him. People wanted to emulate him. People wanted to beat him. And like, he did things that other, like, I know Michael Jordan is like the pinnacle of basketball to most people, but he wasn't really into giving out the secrets, secret sauce. But Kobe, like, he'll beat you in the court but gladly get on the phone with you and call like, hey, you want, I can teach you this or whatever from what I'm understanding from players. So they wanted to like, hey, I want to be like this guy. And I don't think Nike realizes the potential, I won't say it's a huge fallout, but there's going to have a mini fallout for like the guys like, well, I want this shoe and I can't have it. I mean, I know it's college, but Baylor, like over 60% of the guys were wearing Kobe's during the entire season. So you're going to try to transition them to something else, which they may not care as much because they're just, the team is sponsored as opposed to the player. But I feel like you're going to have a lot of, conversations because maybe they don't want to transition. They don't want to wear the Kyrie. Could that be the next thing that really feels like a Kobe is a Kyrie? Maybe they don't want to wear that. So maybe like, hey, I'm going to go to this other brand because they're going to pay me more money now.
Yep. Yeah, I think the other thing that's kind of interesting, right, is, the Kobe retros might not have done, they weren't, obviously when somebody passes away, the market just goes crazy for their products. Mm-hmm. It always happens, I mean, I think that the NBA guys were the guys that really carried the Kobe Protro line, right? Like,
yep.
The undefeated stuff was cool, but like seeing the guys in the league, that was what made me want them at least, and made it even cooler because it was like, look, these guys are getting to play in their heroes' shoes, and that you just don't see that, right? Like, and I wonder if we'll ever, like, to the point about Nike not, wanting to make Kobe a high enough priority for, the future. I totally understand that, right? Like, you can't possibly, how do you appeal to the next guy if you're still, giving all the marketing dollars to, Kobe, for instance, unless you spin it off into its own thing, right? You have to take that out of the equation for new, in my opinion, for new, signature athletes or new even, brand deals, because I'm thinking of like Jordan, right? Like if Jordan was still under the Nike banner and you were still selling, Nike or Jordan, whatever models, there would be so much more problems because now you're trying to prioritize a guy that's retired over, these guys that are trying to be the next legacy that carries on the brand. So I think it's really fascinating. And I hope that, I don't know, like I hope that the fans actually, still support whatever happens next, for Vanessa Bryant and the family, because it's tough as a sneaker consumer to think of even, walking away from Nike on some of these shoes, but like, and they'll always be there, right? Like, I'm sure we'll see a Grinch release 5 or 10 years from now. It might not be exactly the same, but it'll be enough nostalgia. to kind of reinvigorate the fans. But it'll be interesting, man. It's super crazy. It's super crazy. I just can't really wrap my head around that it even got to the point where it's where there's no deal there, right? And
right.
I think I can't remember if you said it or not, but what was the last at least the idea of like what was the last shoe that's going to come out?
Oh, the Hall of Fame
That's
Kobe
right.
6, which if it ties into the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, that should be what, May something?
Yep.
So I mean, we got about a month and a half left of new Kobe releases. I mean, they still have a couple things floating out there. We never got the Black History Month 6s, which I thought was really weird. They were kind of pushing those on different websites. The Think Pink Protros, the K-Yows are still floating around out there. The Protros the Del Sol is going to be the next one. Supposedly comes out. They've already done the raffle in Titan in the Philippines, so you're going to have a couple of those in the resale market now. So I don't know if Nike's going to hold them or whatever it may be. I don't know. I don't know what else is on the back burner for these yet. That's the only ones I've actually seen. But I just, man, it's crazy because there were just so many things in my mind. I was like, oh, I'm going to get a Kobe 9 finally, things like that. But I'm happy. Like I can say I do have a couple pairs of Kobe's. I don't have as many as I used to because at one point in my life I did sell off a lot of my collection. But I'm able to say I own a good amount of them. I've enjoyed them. And although I really hate to see mine, fall apart one day, I mean, I have to say, I got to have a part of that history. So I can't be mad. Like this one, I can't be mad at like the Bryant family on this one because I know there's something bigger in play for them, and they have to look out for their own interest because Kobe's not here anymore. So I can't be mad at them. I'm more like kind of teed off at Nike for not, although I love like the LeBron sneaker, the Kyrie sneaker. If you put all of them next to each other, if you made the same amount of Kobe's model is going to do more numbers than all of them. And the fact that they're just trying to, again, I sound like I'm taking shots at other players, but take some of the money out of like the millions of PGs. You keep giving me black and white PGs and like black and white Giannis is like, stop making some of those, put some of those materials in the Kobe's. You can make more of them because although, yes, I know you sell them. I know that even though discounted prices, it doesn't matter. Your stores are still going to order big amounts of them, or you make stores order a ton of them. Take some of that infrastructure you're using, take some of those materials and make more Kobe's. You could do that easily. But I really think that Nike, even though they don't want to say it, I think they do like to feed the resale and hype machine just to keep the even bad press is good press for them because even if we're mad, we're still going to try to get out of anger to get the next shoe. So they're okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, to be fair to the folks that are working at Nike too, they're probably just as disappointed as we are, right? Like a lot of those people,
it's the higher ups as opposed to
they got to work on the product, that got to work with Kobe. I mean, there's probably dozens or hundreds of people, throughout Nike that had personal relationships with Kobe over the years, and it's definitely got to be a tough time for them too to think like that relationship is not going to be, it'll still exist in some regard, but it won't be what it has been. So. I don't know, man. I am, I guess like default me is just always optimistic, trying to see the positives in this. I hope that, this turns into availability to, the next generation and the generation after that for Kobe shoes, whether that's with Nike or another brand, I don't think that necessarily matters. Like, I think in a perfect scenario, we'd all love to see, it continue on with Nike, but plenty of opportunity out there. So it's just crazy. I mean, I'm still kind of like, even though we've been talking for an hour, I feel like I'm still kind of speechless because it's just like not something you would ever expect to have happened.
It's weird. Like you don't think you're going to hear that. I mean, any other player, like, oh, you're leaving this brand? Oh, okay. But you never would have thought you'd hear Kobe leaving Nike. I mean, it's like, what? It's been like 20 years. Like, what are you doing?
All right. As I was wrapping up and editing this, we got a little bit of an update thanks to Nick DiPaola and ESPN. Basically, a statement from Vanessa Bryant that says Kobe's Nike contract expired on 4/13/2021. Kobe and Nike have made some of the most beautiful basketball shoes of all time, worn and adorned by fans and athletes in all sports across the globe. It seems fitting that more NBA players wear my husband's product than any other signature shoe. According to a source, Bryant and the state had grown frustrated with Nike limiting the availability of Kobe product during his retirement and after his January 2020 death in a helicopter crash. There was also frustration with the lack of availability of Kobe footwear in kids' sizes, according to sources presumably to be worn by both young boys and girls getting their starts in the sport. Nike, sources said, had presented an extension offer that was not in line with the expectations or of an ongoing, quote, lifetime structure like the Nike Inc. contracts held by both Michael Jordan and LeBron James. My hope will always be to allow Kobe's fans to get and wear his products, Vanessa Bryant said. I will continue to fight for that. Kobe's products sell out in seconds. That says everything. I was hoping to forge a lifelong partnership with Nike that reflects my husband's legacy. We will always do everything we can to honor Kobe and Gigi's legacies. That will never change. It is believed that all future releases of Kobe Bryant branded footwear and apparel manufactured by Nike will be halted. The Kobe Bryant estate could enter into negotiations with outside brands to form a new partnership. Vanessa Bryant also confirmed to ESPN that the Kobe Bryant estate owns the rights to both the, quote, Mamba logo and his signature. The sheath logo, often featured on the tongue of the Nike Kobe sneakers, is mutually owned by both sides, according to a source. Kobe Bryant was an important part of Nike's deep connection to consumers. Nike told we've already seen that. But basically, crazy updates there. Sounds like this deal is not going to happen. There were also rumors of Adidas. There were also rumors, I would say, prior to this, that Nike didn't want to give Kobe a lifetime deal because he was an Adidas athlete and successful as an Adidas athlete in his early years in the league. So we'll throw it to you. Let us know what you think about all this. Are you still going to buy Kobe shoes if they're not Nikes? We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.